So this one's going to be a little bit different than most of the videos I've made, where most of what I do right now on YouTube is just kind of case studies with my current roster and the athletes that I coach. Um, but uh, this video is going to be pretty much just covering um, communication as a coach in general, and pretty much how to establish a system of effective communication as an online powerlifting coach, because that's necessary. And if you're not coaching someone in person, then communication can be a lot trickier online. So, in my opinion, communication is of utmost importance if you want to be a good powerlifting coach. And if you want to have success coaching multiple athletes and gather sufficient training data with multiple athletes, then you need to establish an effective system of communication. And this is a topic I think is brushed upon, and communication as a whole is talked about a lot in the powerlifting community. And I have, I think, I don't know, 3 or 4 posts on my page just about communication as a coach in general. But setting up the system of actually being able to communicate effectively is something I think is a bit overlooked and is done in a lot of different ways from a lot of different coaches. And that's going to be important kind of just to keep in mind as you watch this video. There's so many different ways to establish an effective communication system. I'm going to be, I guess, I'll be running through my exact communication system and kind of expectations with my roster and how I approach communication as a coach. But I'll kind of wait until the end to do that and put all the pieces together there. But the main thing I'll be running through here is just, I guess, what you need to do absolutely if you want an effective communication system, and pretty much just how to maximize how effective that system is. Like I said, there's going to be so many different ways to be a good communicator as an online powerlifting coach, but there's going to be some necessities and some requirements you need to meet if you want to do so. So throughout this video, I'll hopefully not make it super long like my other videos. No promises though. But what I'll be talking about is why we need to communicate, expectations that need to be set about communication, and literally just the tangible things you can do to blatantly set those expectations. The importance of a spreadsheet and just overall a template, typically in Google Sheets or something. Frequency of communication, style of communication, mutual communication, how that's being received between the coach and the client. And pretty much just strategies to communicate better yourself, and strategies to get your athletes to communicate better as well. So yeah, overall, I'll just kind of get right into it. It's going to be not a lot of screen sharing for the most part, just a lot of me talking. So first, why do we need communication? The obvious thing is, if you're an online powerlifting coach or just an online coach in general, you're not going to be coaching in person. That's the most obvious thing. You don't have your athlete or lifter right in front of you to run through technique or explain programming to, or get feedback from, or I guess help support them through bad training, whatever it may be. You're not there in person. That's the most obvious reason. So as an athlete or client reaching out to someone for coaching, I think it's pretty expected that you're going to get some kind of communication if you're reaching out to an online powerlifting coach. It's just a lot of people who offer communication as an online powerlifting coach aren't good at doing it and don't have a clear system of effective communication set out for their athletes. It's just kind of, hey, I'll write your programming and we'll talk, and you give me good data and I'll base my training decisions off of that data. But in my opinion, having something very clear and specific and expectations being set blatantly is going to be of utmost importance in comparison to literally just communicating. So that being said, yes, we need to communicate because we're online. That's the most obvious. Second obvious reason is we need to collect training data, and without communication from a client, it's pretty much impossible to do so. And communication can be, I guess, classified as multiple things. It can be classified as your client talking to you, your client, or you talking to your client. It could be a filled out spreadsheet. It could be a video being sent to you, whatever it may be. But all of these are pieces of data that we need to consider. And if none of these are being sent to us and the client's not communicating, what are we going to do as a coach? We can't do anything. If we don't even know that a client is training, that's already bad enough. But that's the second reason, just to gather data, and just kind of keeping those two reasons up going forward. We need to, I guess, have a fundamental understanding of the other nitty-gritty reasons why communication is important as well. Another often overlooked one is just lifter psychology. Some people like to communicate more than others, and communication is important to establish a good relationship with the client. Not only that, but set boundaries as a coach with the client. It is important to, I guess, gain a client's trust. It is important for a client to gain your trust. It is important for just relationship building in general, and just all those, I guess, more basic psychological concepts that one may experience working with a coach. But overall, psychology is going to play a role in why communication is important as well. So, as far as setting expectations go, like I've mentioned, I think this is one of the more important components to actually establishing a system of good communication as a coach. So first off, you need to tell your clients what your expectations are as for them as an athlete. If they aren't meeting expectations, or they're not meeting your expectations, and you just straight up haven't told them what your expectations of them are, then that's on you. Because if you know they're getting in the gym and their spreadsheet's not filled out, they're not reporting on a certain detail each session, they're not keeping you updated on sleep and recovery and all that, but you've never told them to do this, then that's totally on you, and that's not, I guess, the athlete's fault. And sure, there's qualities of a good athlete, which is just communication and kind of, I guess, them being autonomous with communication and just being a naturally good communicator, that they'll fill you in on those kinds of things, but there's going to be athletes who are not. And if you're not making it clear that you need X, Y, and Z to be communicated about, then that's on you. So that's the first thing. Make sure your athletes are 100% aware of your expectations as a coach in terms of communication. And then on the flip side, make sure your athletes are aware of what to expect from you. And if they are given the expectation that they are going to receive feedback from every session, they're going to get technical feedback X amount of times, every so often, whatever it may be, or they're going to hear from you this many times a day, this many times a week, this on this day of the week, once a day, twice a day, once in 24 hours, whatever it may be. These are all things you also need to communicate with someone that you're working with. So it's two-sided. You need to have your clients understand what to expect from you, and your clients need to understand what they need to do in order to meet your expectations. A couple examples of expectations to set are you going to reply to them within a certain time frame? Myself personally, every single time I take on a new client, I'm always going to blatantly tell them I'm never, ever, ever going to take longer than 24 hours to reply to you. And then I also follow it up with, it's never going to take 24 hours for me to get back to you. There's going to be rare occasions when I'm at a meet on a weekend and my response times are slow, whatever it may be. But that's the first expectation to set. Well, not the first, but that's one of the expectations you need to set. Are you going to be replying to them within a certain amount of time? Some people like to do weekly communication. Are you going to be sending them your weekly check-in, your weekly update on a Friday, on a Wednesday, on a Sunday, whatever it may be? Another component or expectation to set, how often are you going to reply? Are you going to be talking to them every single time you train? Are you a daily communicator in general? That's something I'll get to. But just frequency of replies is another important thing to set an expectation on. Another big one, and arguably the biggest or one of the biggest, is what should an athlete communicate about, how often, and when? And this is where I'm going to just run through a quick document that I actually have shared with my athletes. So like I said, arguably one of the most important things to set an expectation on is what you need your clients to communicate about. This is what I recommend doing. Actually just typing it up people and sharing it with people, whether it be on Google Drive, just texting it to them, an email, something that's easily accessible. But I quite literally just write down pretty much just some kind of inspiration or questions to answer for people to reference in great detail. If they are lacking on communication, I'll always say, well, if you need specific things to communicate about and you need clarification on what I need you to communicate about, then reference this document. But I just have pretty general, I guess, snippets of some categories of communication related things, in relation to training. So just kind of skim through it. Overall, just strength levels, pretty much. How are you feeling strength-wise? How are you feeling fatigue-wise? External circumstances, right? Food, water, sleep, stuff like that. Overall mental preparedness, motivation levels, stress levels, enjoyment levels, things like that. Just an update on technique, pain, discomfort, just overall anything related to that, and then just some other general miscellaneous questions here at the bottom. But within all of these, we have just questions to answer. It's not only a topic that I want someone to talk about, it's quite literally just questions I want people to answer. And I always emphasize this to everyone. I don't need that much detail on every single day. There's maybe some days there's not going to be anything to say, there's not going to be much to add, but when there is certain things to add, I always ask people to reference this document. And more often than not, when people are lacking on communication and they're struggling to find something to add, like I said, more often than not, they're going to find something within this document. So now that the importance of just setting expectations and understanding why communication is important, I guess just has been explained, I'm just going to run through another really good, just tangible thing that people need if they want to have good communication, and that's a good template. Whether it be pretty or not, there needs to be some kind of way to track numerical training data, right? And I'm pretty big on just having a detailed template. Have good things to track and have it be not only that, but clear, concise, and I guess very easy to understand from an athlete's perspective. So overall, I'm just going to give a quick run through of the template that we use and kind of the function of everything to in order to collect like numerical training data from people. So to start, everything up here is pretty simple. Just demographic information. We kind of got like a microcycle layout up here, and a second version written down here. But the biggest pieces of communication are the columns you're seeing within the spreadsheet. So biggest one is just receiving load, like just pretty much just getting to know what someone took during a session. So always have a load column. And then another really important one is to always have an actual RPE column. RPE rating and just training with an RPE based system is going to be important. That's a little bit besides the point of this video because it is communication related, but I do like to point out that these are two really important columns when having a good template to keep track of data, and everything else is pretty straightforward. So that's pretty much all I wanted to point out, but the main focal points of the template is to have something clear, concise, have something that's mutually understandable, and kind of boils down to expectations as well. Do you need every single day filled out? What columns do you need filled out? Are you expecting your client to fill in the spreadsheet by a certain time? Are you, and then on the flip side too, is your client going to be expecting feedback from you on the spreadsheet at a certain time? Whatever it may be. But that's another really important piece of communication, and establishing that system of communication is to just make a good, clear, and understandable spreadsheet to keep track of training data on. Another really quick part that I just remembered I wanted to add was our little cells here to keep track of variables. And when we were making this spreadsheet as a team, we kind of agreed that we didn't want it to feel like a quiz. We didn't want it to feel like homework for someone to fill out the spreadsheet. So there's realistically a lot more you can add if you want to go that extra mile and have some outlet to keep track of the basic stuff like external variables here, as we'll see. But we boiled it down to just eight more important ones, just to skim through: hours of sleep, hydration, how much you ate before, rough estimate. Post-session RPE is going to be pretty much how hard you thought the session was after the fact. Duration of training also after the fact, just how long the session took. You got time of training, that's more so the O clock, right? Physical fatigue, pretty straightforward there, and then total daily steps. Those are the 8 that we thought were the most important, but another really good thing to have in a spreadsheet, or just some way to keep track of in general, is external variables. So make sure you're getting some kind of feedback from your clients on external variables, just as a whole. So to kind of, I guess, transition into more of the service-related communication styles that people have, I'm just going to throw my opinion out there. I think daily communication 100% of the time is going to be the most useful and the best. If you are not taking advantage of daily communication, then there's going to be better coaches out there who are better at communicating and just are a better general coach. And a big contributor to that is because they are daily communicators. They have some kind of outlet that they communicate on every day, whether that be multiple times a day, whether that be within a 24-hour window, whether that be just once or twice a day. But in my opinion, daily communication is going to be superior 100% of the time. There are so many fantastic coaches who do not communicate daily. They communicate weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever it may be. But in my opinion, I think daily communication is far superior. And if you want to create the best system of the most effective communication possible, you need to be communicating every day with your clients and have an outlet to do so. So that brings me to my first point. Find some kind of instant messenger app, whether it be something you are logging into once a day or multiple times a day, or you're constantly checking. There needs to be some kind of outlet to communicate with your clients on. Personally, I use WhatsApp, and the reason I use WhatsApp is because I don't ever use it for anything else, and it's just an app I can download that's instant messenger. It's universal. You can message anyone across the world on. So I use WhatsApp personally. A lot of people sometimes they'll use Instagram DM. I'm not as big of a fan of Instagram DM as I am on just an instant messenger app separately from a social media platform. Some people just use texting, iMessage, Facebook Messenger, other instant messenger apps, but find an instant messenger app and use that for daily communication. In my opinion, that is the best way to get the most effective communication possible. That being said, it is very easy to abuse daily communication. There are a lot of clients who will text their coach like they are their best friend, like they're keeping them updated on their family, how their dog is, all of this unnecessary stuff. So it also brings me to my very first point of the entire video, which was to set expectations. And when you are offering daily communication, you need to set expectations with that. Personally, I'll get to this at the end of the video. I'll kind of run through my personal system, but I require every single one of my athletes to message me every single time they work out and give me some kind of good feedback on that. That's why I have the communication document. That communication document is going to serve as guidelines and inspiration for things to communicate about during people's post-session updates. So daily communication, absolutely necessary in my opinion. Find an outlet to communicate on daily and just kind of figure out how to piece the pieces together there. But otherwise, like I said, set expectations on how not to abuse that system and teach your athletes how to be autonomous. Like I said, there's going to be people who just message you all the time, and that, in my opinion, can just be not productive. Some coaches like to create more of a friendship with their clients, which I think could be very beneficial. That's also going to be another point that I bring up soon, but um, make it clear how often you want to be talking to your clients and what your clients need to be talking to you about. And if they're kind of crossing that boundary where they're just, texting you like they're your best friend and, taking advantage of you being available on an instant messenger app, then that needs to be a conversation you have with your clients as well. But that kind of also will transition me to my next point, which is find a way to regulate intra-session communication when necessary. I actually have a video of myself explaining my intra-session communication expectations, accessible to all my clients for them to watch. I believe my whole roster has watched that, but the way I do things is I always encourage people to message me in the middle of their session when necessary. And that's the key, only when necessary. If you don't need to, then don't. But the bottom line is I have 25 plus people messaging me every single day throughout the day. And if you're just spamming me in the middle of your workout and when you don't really need to, you're taking away from the time that I need to devote to messaging other clients who are giving me their post-session updates, giving me feedback on the feedback that I'm giving them, or we're just in the middle of an important post-session conversation, or they're getting back to me about a check-in that I'm making for them, whatever it may be. And if you're just saying in the middle of your session, how did this look? Did this look good? Did I hit depth? I feel like crap today. I feel great today. I forgot my Delo socks, just random stuff like this. That's the kind of stuff that, in my opinion, if you want to have the best communication possible, you just got to regulate how intra-session communication is set. So in short, I encourage people to do that, but I need that to be limited and only when necessary. Another good thing to bring up within daily communication is don't just send text messages, send audio messages and send video messages. The absolute biggest thing about this is you want your athletes to view you as a human being and not just someone they text. They need to see your face. They need to hear your voice. They need to be able to create a relationship with you. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you're an online coach. There's only so much you can do online. And whether that be with just an interpersonal relationship with your client, setting an expectation with your client, creating an effective system of communication in general, there are going to be boundaries and there are going to be setbacks that you hit online in comparison to being in person. So there's pros and cons to both, and you need to weigh those. But instead of just sending text messages, send audio messages and video messages. I cannot emphasize that enough. I've been doing that for a super long time, and it has been super beneficial. Audio messages and video messages, and to kind of get into depth, video messages are important because you can quite literally show someone something technical you want them to change. You can get in the gym yourself and demonstrate something for them and talk over it. And like I said, they can see your face. They know what you look like. They understand that this is a person and a human being that I'm interacting with, and not just someone I'm texting on the phone for advice. And then audio messages for more long form content so they can hear your tone of voice, things like that. But both of those, in my opinion, are super important for effective communication and kind of adding a nice little, I guess, spice to your offering of daily communication. And then to finish off on just the concept of daily communication in general, stoop down to an athlete's personality. Some people, like I said, like to message a lot, and they like to talk to you frequently and have a lot to say. If that's the case, in my opinion, you need to reciprocate that in some manner. If that person is always, full of joy and sending you funny memes, or trying to, I guess, joke around with you and be funny, or is, always in a good mood, you need to reciprocate that. You can't just, ignore them, or, be boring, or kind of have, I guess, not the same energy. And, obviously this kind of boils down to personality type here, but you've gotta, I guess, meet the client where they're at personality wise. And that goes for the opposite, right? I have a couple clients who just, they'll do their session, send me post-session update. I'll give them feedback, and that's pretty much it. There's really nothing outside of that, and there's not a lot of in-depth conversation that goes on beyond that. And then I have people on the other side who are sending me memes, sending me funny messages in all caps, and just joking around with me, and oh my God, this feels great. And on the other side, there's someone who's not so emotional when they have a fantastic session, and you don't even know that they thought it was fantastic because they don't really show that much emotion. So that's another big important thing about daily communication in general, and just communicating in general, is just stoop down to an athlete's personality. So typically, if you're communicating with your clients every day and you have that as a component to your effective communication system, then you really don't need much more. I do recommend in general creating some kind of explanation for your training to supplement that. And the way that I do things, like I said, I'll kind of bring this up at the end, but the way that I do things is I do a weekly check-in on top of daily communication. And oftentimes, because I'm communicating very often with people throughout the week, daily, on WhatsApp and on an instant messenger, there's not a lot to say in these check-ins, but it holds myself accountable. It refreshes my memory as to how someone's training is going. So frankly, it's very beneficial for myself, and not only myself, but the client as well. But weekly check-ins is something I recommend. But in general, just have some kind of way to explain training in general. So whether that be a block review video, I also make those almost every single new block for a client. I'm going to voice over and just kind of have my face up on the bottom or the top of the screen and explain a new block to someone, the reasoning behind their changes, or why I'm giving someone 3 times a week squat, why I'm having someone do 6 sets of bench in a day, why I'm only having someone bench twice a week, whether I'm giving someone dips, whether I'm giving someone leg press over hack squat, whatever it may be. Create athlete buy-in by explaining things as deeply and as in detailed as you can, and don't over-explain. Sometimes there's not a lot to say. Hey, I'm giving you 3s instead of 5s on bench because I want to see how it goes. Sometimes that's something I'll say, and just being brutally honest and saying we're going to try this for the sake of trying it is totally fine. And oftentimes that's just the case with trial and error in training. So, just make sure you are having some kind of way to explain the training that you're giving someone, explain the technique advice you're giving someone, explain reasoning behind things, explain timing going into a meet prep, explain attempts for a meet, whatever it may be. Have some kind of way to explain that. And my recommendation is, do a weekly check-in, do a block review video every block. Some people like to meet with someone on a video call routinely, every week, every month, half a year, whatever it may be. But yeah, establish that and create athlete buy-in by making sure you're actually explaining your reasoning behind the stuff. And then another component to that is to just set goals. And whether that be within a check-in or a video you send someone, running through a block or running through a meet prep or just explaining a training block, set goals, long-term and short-term. If an athlete doesn't have goals to work towards, then they're not going to be as motivated as they could be in training. And obviously motivation comes and goes, but kind of talking through goal setting and talking through motivation and discipline and expectations and general goals in training is super important too. And then finally, one big component to effective communication as an online powerlifting coach is just receiving training videos. But in short, I need to see videos as a coach. If you're not sending videos, then you're not giving me as much data as possible. I can't analyze your technique. I can't see how bar speed went. I can't see what a failed lift looked like, where you failed the lift, how you failed it, why you failed it, why a lift went well, why a session went poorly, whatever it may be. I need to see videos. That is an absolute necessity. If your coach is not, getting a way for you to send videos, then in my opinion, your coach is not communicating as effectively as possible. That's the premise of this video, right? But that's something I do with my clients. I have people send me videos every single session. Sometimes their phone's going to be dead. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is not working. Sometimes the gym is too crowded, whatever it may be. And they can't record for a certain day or two, which is fine. But videos as frequently and as you can, and in a healthy way where you're not recording every single set and you're not recording all 3 sets of 10 on your bicep curl, is vital. So get training videos. That's another big one. And it seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many coaches just don't have their lifters send them their goddamn training. So and something I recommend when receiving training videos as a coach is have a way to store them over time. I personally use Google Drive folders. The only issue with that is you've got to have your lifters pay for like a $2 to $3 storage boost over time, or just have them create a new lifting email or whatever it may be, unshare a folder with them to create more space. But have a way to store them over time. I think the most common way for coaches to send videos is through the instant messenger they use for daily communication, which works fine because if you tap on it, you can just kind of scroll through the details. But I'm kind of a neat freak and I like to have things organized in folders. So that's why I use Google Drive, and that's what I will always recommend. So have a way to store them and refer back to them over time. You need to look at technical regression. You need to look at bar speed over time, things like that. And another important component to creating an effective communication system within training videos and receiving those is explain the angle you want someone to record from on a certain day, every single session, whatever it may be. Explain angles, how to record videos. The nitpicky thing, do you want your videos to be cropped? Don't send me a 4-minute video of you talking to your friends before you lift, things like that. But just kind of all that small stuff about just what you need and what you expect from training videos from people. Which lifts to record in the gym. Do you want to see accessories? Do you want to see every set on a certain day? So yeah, clarify expectations within the videos that you need to see as well. And then last but not least, I'm just going to run through the system of communication that I've set, and it's going to be fairly brief because it kind of encapsulates everything I just talked about. But personally, and this is what we do at TSP as a whole, myself, Chris, and Andy, we put our own twist on everything individually, but in short, all three of us have the same system of communication, and communication is something all three of us take pride on and just how good of communicators we are. But personally, I explain everything on an onboarding call. That's the first thing. I always meet with new clients on video call. That is extremely important. Multiple reasons. Easy way to just exchange conversation. Gather data, have them understand your service as a coach. Get lifter demographic information. Get the lifter to see your face in real time. There's so many reasons. So that's the first thing. Meet with someone on an onboarding call. And not only that, but explain your expectations with communication and everything in general and the service that you offer on that call. So that's the first thing. Besides that, I always do everything through Google Drive. I write programs on Google Drive using that template that I showed. I always run through expectations with that template and when to fill it out and how to fill it out. I have people send me videos on Google Drive. I mentioned that as well. And the big one is, like I said, I have access to daily communication. I have a set schedule as well. I'm always available all day up until 8 p.m. And then I have most days I have a 2 or so hour chunk taken out when I'm training personally. So I have literal times of the day when you're most likely going to get a very quick reply from me outside of the time that I'm at the gym for around 2 hours and after 8 p.m. every day. And my athletes know that. They have access to my daily and weekly schedule. They can see when I'm available to communicate with. But that's the big one, right? I'm on WhatsApp every single day. I have daily communication. You're going to get a reply from me on WhatsApp. On top of that, I send weekly check-ins. The way I do that is I record a pre-recorded video of myself talking about whatever needs to be talked about. Like I said, that's going to vary in length. New clients for the first few weeks, their check-ins are probably going to be a bit longer because there's more data to, I guess, analyze, and there's more new stuff to go over, more stuff to explain in general, starting out, whatever it may be. Closer to someone's meet, the bulk of someone's check-in is most likely going to be attempts and prioritizing heavy singles, whatever it may be. But I do make weekly check-ins for people as well. For training, updates, I always require people to send me a post-session update every single time they train. And I like I mentioned, I have that communication guidelines document to reference to make people, give me better and high quality post-session updates. Besides that is the bulk of everything I do communication-wise. I always explain that I have a 24-hour window. It's never ever going to take me 24 hours to reply. I'm always going to explain that I am going to reply to people as quickly as possible, whether it be, in the morning after 8 p.m. or throughout the day. I'm also not available at certain times. I might be at a meet with someone, whatever it may be, but just giving those expectations blatantly is important too. So to kind of put the pieces together and I guess create a bigger picture here, if I were to run through the timeline of communication every single day for one of my clients during a training session, it's going to look like the client will train, fill in their spreadsheet, upload their videos on Google Drive, and then message me a post-session update. And then I'm going to give them feedback as quickly as I possibly can. It's most likely going to take me less than an hour within the time frames I'm available on my schedule. And I'm going to get back to them with feedback. And once they do all that, they get back to me and then repeat. They can message me in their session as necessary, but that's pretty much it. And it kind of just goes through that cycle of you set the communication expectations and then the client meets them. So I most likely forgot to just run through one or two, maybe three things that I wanted to, but I think that pretty much runs through, in my opinion, how to create the best communication, the most effective communication system possible as an online powerlifting coach. Like I said, there's probably something I missed, but in general, it all boils down to everything that I said. So I hope all of that was helpful to any aspiring coaches out there or anyone looking to improve their communication. And without rambling anymore, I'll see you guys next time.